Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's Tuesday morning again.
It is. Let me
Um,
tell you. Go ahead.
we recently watched Groundhog Day. He's waking up at the same time, doing the same thing every day. And I was like, some days it feels like we just got up and did this yesterday, but it has been an entire week.
Talk about a metaphor for life, getting up every day and doing the same thing. Like keep the excitement going, people.
Yeah,
Um
the cacao keeps my excitement going every
every day and
day.
doing the same thing. Like I have to tell you, well, first of all, last night my son had a basketball game and I was just tired, I had a long day, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna drink some cacao. So I had like a tank of cacao last night, which was great because I slept amazing. And then this morning I'm having cacao again, so I I should be pretty inspired here in a minute. Um,
Yeah, I've had um so last Saturday we did our first ever prayer circle. Um, and so I did a cacao ceremony as part of the prayer circle to open everybody's hearts to be in the most beautiful space for prayer. And but I'd had cacao that morning, I had cacao that evening, I had cacao on Sunday. I took a break and I had coffee instead of cacao.
yeah, I think last week I think I pretty much took the week off, just following my intuition, like what am I feeling today, or simply, I don't know, just being like, you know what, it's okay, not today, and I adding up those little here and there, I think it was about a week, that I kind of took off, which was fine, nothing bad happened. I didn't have withdrawal symptoms or anything, so that's good. uh, but I had taken cayenne pepper out for a while just to see how I would feel. And I put it back in now and I'm like, "Oh, I've missed you." So cayenne pepper back in. Um, but on a different note, I have to tell you, I have been, really getting to know all of the shops and businesses and restaurants in this area and, kind of just going out there and meeting folks and stuff like that. And I'm really encouraged because I'm like, man, we really do have everything. And even though it's a small town, like you don't need 8 coffee shops, you can have 2 coffee shops, and that's plenty enough. Like it's cool, like so we have everything. I'm all excited about it. And then this morning, my son gets sick, and I'm like, oh, there's no matzo ball soup. Where do I go for matzo ball soup? So ah, so now I'm like, okay, do I make it? Do I try and order it from like somewhere and have it shipped to me? Like, man, I really missed that now. So I might have
I'm
to keep
laughing
thinking
as you say
around.
that. I I'm trying to think if I've ever had matzo ball soup.
Oh my gosh, when they say Jewish penicillin, no joke. Like I grew up, when you get sick, you have a soup, right? And it's usually chicken noodle soup, or chicken soup or whatever. That's kind of the basics. But matzo ball soup, that is no nonsense. Like to me, matzo ball soup is like a Z pack. Like you drink, 2 days of that, I'm telling you, you feel better, So more way for me way more effective than just chicken soup. And really the difference between chicken soup and matzo ball soup is really just the matzo ball, but it's so good. Pomperdale Deli, forever in my heart. Fort Lauderdale, right there. I think it's on Oakland. Highly recommend. The matzo balls are like these big giant 4-inch giant matzo balls, just so delicious. So anyway,
You
I'm
talking about
jonesing.
that is making me miss my mom's chicken dumpling soup, which is probably the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I've had other chicken dumpling soups. Nobody made chicken dumpling soup like my mom, and I was stupid and didn't learn from her how to make it her way, and it's
Yeah.
just forever lost. There's
Yeah.
that, and growing up, we had this neighbor. Um, they were an older couple, so we called them grandma and grandpa. And she made these cookies. I will say they were like a butter cookie, sugar cookie, something like that. They would just melt in your mouth, and like they had the perfect flavor. And she would never give out the recipe for these cookies because they were her cookies. And we moved away, and of course she passed away. And so I have like made like a million cookie recipes trying to find that
Wow.
cookie, and no. And I tell you, like, I I would pay $100 for that cookie just to like
Wow.
experience it one more time.
Wow. Something similar happened, when my aunt passed away. We lost the best black bean recipe ever. She would
Mm,
make these giant pots of black beans, and then she would put them in Tupperwares for you, like, after we all grew up, and then she would send them home. So then Tim would be like, "Hey, Norma, where can we get some black beans?" And she's like, "Say no more." And she would make like literally like a pressure cooker pot, filled with black beans, and then ship them over like in single servings. Like we ate so good. And I remember asking her one day, like, "Hey, can you tell me this recipe?" And I was gonna video her, and she was like, "No, no, no, don't video me, don't video me." But what she, because we all do that, right? Like, "No, I don't look good." And I'm like, "Son of a bitch, I should have done it." Because what did she do? She was just like, "Okay, look, it's easy. All you do is this. She like basically did magic in front of my face. And I was like, "I can't get all that." She's like, "You're fine." I'm like, "I'm not fine." So I missed out on that. But did you
yeah.
see the woman who, similarly to the cookie, she was famous for a certain cookie recipe, and when she died, on the back of her tombstone, on the backside, they put the cookie recipe, and then people would, take the recipe, make it, and then, like, get back to the family, like, "Look, we made the recipe, da 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 da." I'm like, "That's pretty cool," you know? That's a pretty neat way to pass along your secret recipe that you never wanted to share while you're alive, you know?
That works. That worked. I got some cayenne in my throat. Speaking of cayenne, oh man.
Anyway, many, many times in my life, I didn't listen to the little voice inside of me that said, "Get this recipe." I think I've told you the story of the family picture. I had a family photo shoot schedule. This is way before I became a photographer. One person couldn't make it, so they canceled the whole entire thing. And anyway, that person ended up being divorced out of the family anyway. So we could have done the shoot. And then my grandmother died, and then my aunt died, and then my cousin died, and then my uncle died. And so what a waste, right? Had I just listened to my intuition, had I just gone forward with it and said, "Listen, I'm sorry you can't come today, but you'll be fine. This is my family." Um, but anyway, you live and you learn, I guess.
Yep. And y- we all have intuition, like every single one of us. People are always like, "Oh, are you psychic? Are you psychic?" It's like everybody is. You just have to tune in and listen to it and follow it. And I think over the years I've gotten much, much better at not only listening to it but following through on the messages that I receive. Um, but yeah, you see people all the time that was like, "Oh, I knew that was gonna happen," and I'm like,
So dig into that a little bit deeper. Like, let's talk about what is the difference between intuition and hearing a voice and hearing a message, right? Because sometimes you're like, "Well, I don't hear voices. I don't see signs. What does that mean?" So what is intuition?
so, and like intuition can come through you, like those things you're describing the players there, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. um those are all ways that messages can come to us. So like clairvoyance just means clear vision. And so yes, some people do see, they have prophetic dreams that show what's coming to happen. They see visions. Sometimes people hear voices. Occasionally I hear voices, but most of what I hear is frequency that somehow I translate into language, and like I get like this, I'll just call it like a hit when I've got the message understood properly. Like I get the tap, like you got it. um but most of the time, like mine is clear cognizance, which means you just know. And in my younger days that was frustrating because it was like I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, I didn't feel anything. Like I just know this, but there's no, like I didn't have proof of it.
Right.
Like somehow like hearing voices or seeing an image would be proof of it.
Right.
um the just knowing is you just know.
And if
And
you think about it, it's like it's not our fault because like we're raised on this, right? Like, and I'm sure you remember elementary school, it was all about the scientific method, and right, like all the different methods of proving and proving and proving. There was never any talk about trusting.
yeah. So, but I think in general, like when we're talking intuition, it is just like that feeling, that knowing. Like a lot of times we talk about like you feel it in your gut. Um, but it can also come like, some people it is in their gut, some people it's in their heart. Like where it gets complicated is when it's in your head. So is it that deep spiritual knowing, or is it just your thoughts that are trying to convince you of something? And I think the biggest thing that you have to just start acting on it and trusting it. And once you like give into it and go with it, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. Whereas when you're ignoring it, not trusting it, saying it can't be so, and then you like after the fact like realize like, oh, I was right. Oh, I was right. But like then your body starts doubting itself and stops showing you. Whereas when you trust it and give it the chance, like it becomes clearer and more obvious to you.
Yeah. And the truth is, for me, like if I second guess something, then make a decision, whatever decision I make, I'm making it with trepidation, which technically means I'm not going to be doing the thing that I decided to do wholeheartedly, because a secret part of me is going to be scared that I made the wrong decision, right? Whereas if I trust my intuition and I trust my thought, my gut feel, whatever it is, and I do it wholeheartedly, then regardless of the outcome, I feel prepared for it. I feel strong enough to handle whatever it is. And there's always uncertainty. Like there's always, you want to make a left instead of a right and you're not sure why. And sometimes, quote unquote, a good thing happens or a bad thing happens or whatever. But I think when you go into it assuredly, how you react to whatever the outcome is, it matters. Does that make sense? Am I talking in a circle?
I gotcha. I hopefully our audience got you too, and if not,
They
they
should
can
know me
post
by
a
then.
question like, "Please clarify, Graciela," because I didn't get that. Um,
Yeah. It's just
I
like
would also,
jumping, like if there, like when you were a kid and you had to like jump over a puddle, like you have to jump over that puddle with all the confidence in the world to get over it and just
or
believe
you're
that you
gonna
can do
land
it.
right in the middle of it.
Right. And because fear is going to stop you in the middle of whatever the action is. And obviously, I'm giving like a super simple example, but this could be, a certain relationship or a business decision or, whatever it is that's happening in your life. Right. Because once you trust, then there's like so much peace. And when there's peace, then whatever you do, you're going to do it with delight, you know, and not fear.
Yeah. Um, also want to talk about like in the beginning too, like if you're struggling to actually like receive the message, like receive the knowing, um, this is what oracle cards are out there for, or pendulums, or um, there's so many other ways, like even picking up a random book and just like opening a page and putting your finger down and reading a lot of times can bring you the answers that you're looking for. um I and I use oracle cards a lot of times in the cacao ceremonies, and people just love them. And it's so fun watching them get the aha moment from, it was like, I knew this, and like, did I actually need this card to tell me? But they can work as like a little bit of reinforcement. um Pendulums, I don't use pendulums much anymore because to me they're kind of slow. It takes a while for the answer to come, and I can get my answer so much quicker other ways. But they are just like a fun way to start playing with, um, you know, your intuition, because someone's like, you're moving the pendulum. Well, yes, you're moving the pendulum, but it's your subconscious that's moving the pendulum, not your, well, yes, you can go in there and consciously make it do what you want it to do, and you're defeating the purpose.
Right.
But it is your subconscious that knows the answer, that moves the pendulum. So
Yeah. I think most of the time, rarely does an answer come up or a question come up that I don't have an immediate answer to. And then it's what happens after I have the answer where things derail, right? Where I'm like, I don't know, somebody walks into the room and I'm like, do I trust that person? Like bad vibes. But then my brain is like, well, don't be a jerk about it. Like, hang on, give them a chance, blah, 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 blah. And then something terrible happens. And I'm like, I fucking knew it. I knew it, like, or I don't know, keeping a receipt, because just in case, and then the thing breaks, and I'm like, man, I knew it. I'm so glad I kept this receipt, I'm so glad I kept this thing or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, I find that the gut feel, the first reaction is probably the correct reaction, not always, but it's got a pretty good success rate. It's everything else. It's all the questioning, afterwards that kind of derails everything. So
and
I don't
where
know.
in your life do you feel like you really started tuning in more to your intuition?
Probably about after the 750th time that I said to myself, some shit happened and I went, oh man, I knew it. I'm definitely a product of the school of hard knocks where I just kept paying attention to all the things I was supposed to do as opposed to doing the things that I really knew that I should have done. And this goes back to like literally childhood, and you know, I mean, gosh, I could give you a million examples, saying something that was offensive to someone, even though it didn't feel good in my body, but I thought that that's what I was supposed to be saying, right? Or being in a relationship that I knew wasn't the right relationship, but I was pressured that, oh, you're so lucky to be in this relationship. This is amazing. You have to be in this relationship. And then 15 years went out the window, but like really, if I think back, I knew. So I think once I had the epiphany of how much of my life I feel like and I don't want to say wasted because, um, life had to work out the way that it did to get me to where I am today. So I am grateful for that. But when I think of all the other, the ghost ships, the other paths I could have taken if I had only followed my intuition, where would I be today? So, and is that better or worse? I don't know, but it definitely made me more aware of making conscious decisions,
Yeah.
so.
I'm always curious for other people because, um, I don't really remember any any of that stuff from when I was a child. Um, but as an adult, like, I just, so many supernatural things would happen, and like it was just all just thrown at me, and so I had no choice. And but I would sit around and like tell people about my experiences, and they would be just like, oh my god, tell me more, tell me more. It was like entertainment for them, but for me it was like, it was my real life experience. And as I get older, they just get bigger and crazy, like having the Stargate open up in front of you in Egypt behind the step pyramid in Saqqara. Like that's pretty wild. um and like, yeah, I know that doesn't happen to everybody, but regardless, like you don't have to have these super huge experiences for your intuition to be real. Like everybody has it. You just have to, you know, quiet the mind, slow down, pay attention, and follow through and trust. Because
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest place where people get messed up, is that they don't trust. And one thing you had mentioned, I think all of us are victim to letting other people convince that it's otherwise, just because that's the space that they're living in. But it doesn't
Right.
mean that anybody's intuition is better for you than your own intuition.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'm like, for example, my kids right now, they're 15. They're still children and they're on the cusp of quote unquote adulthood. And so up until I'll, how should I say this? The percentage of time that they need me to tell them exactly what to do is far more diminished the older they get, right? So when they were little, I had to tell them every step of every day. Okay, now go get your shoes. Now tie your shoes. Now put your jacket on. Now we're going to go to the car. Now buckle in. Now da da da. So think about it, for the first 12 years of their lives, I'm literally directing every step of the way. So they're not used to paying attention to intuition because I'm the intuition. I'm like, "No, you're going to do this. This is what we're going to do," right? And I think I told you this story. I raised my kids to like I wanted to give them something concrete. And I said, listen to your gut, right? Like, listen to your belly. If your stomach hurts, you're probably doing something that, you shouldn't be doing. Um, and then one day my son came to me with a stomach ache, because like he had eaten too much Halloween candy or something. And he was like, oh, mom, was I a bad boy today? Like, did I do something bad today? And I'm like, okay, the gut is not super, a little dependable, but it's not always that. Um, but we have to evolve, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, yes, we have been raised, and unfortunately our jobs are also not intuitive based. Like now it is. Now my life is very much so. That's where my creativity comes from, right? What I think is the best for my client in that moment. But when I had a day job, nobody wanted my opinion. As a matter of fact, there was one boss one year, who shall remain nameless, who I remember someone said, I don't want you to think. I just want you to do what I tell you to do. Literally, we were told, I don't want you to think. I want you to just do what I tell you to do. And it's like, how, tell me how your intuition can't get beat out of you, you know? So it takes a conscious effort, which is what I'll say. Don't feel bummed if you don't, hear voices and see rainbows in a rock. Like, not everything is a burning bush. It's okay. But practice listening to your intuition, practice following your gut, stand somewhere and say, where should I go next? Right. Or, you know, try that, see how that feels.
Yeah, it's fun to play with it. Um and I think that's also an important aspect of developing it, is to have fun with it and don't take it so seriously. Um I think when you get too intense about it, like you lose the connection.
Sure.
Just gotta
It's like
relax and
flying
play and
too
have
close
fun.
to the sun.
Say again?
Like flying too close to the sun. Just enjoy the ride. Just enjoy the ride. I will say, back to the oracle cards that you were talking about, I have had some absolutely amazing experiences. And, the little science sea girl in me has screenshots of a lot of this stuff. So when y'all don't believe me, ask me and I will send it to you. But there have been multiple times where I pull a card, it gives me a message, and then 3 days later, I shuffle the deck, ad nauseum, pull another card, and it's the same exact card with the same exact message. That happens to me a lot with the Divine Feminine deck. I tend to pull back to back, the same card back to back. It's probably happened to me maybe on 4 separate occasions at this point. And there are still cards in that deck that I've never seen before, because other people will pick those cards and I'll be like, oh, I didn't know that one was in there. I never sat there and looked at every single card. But the same ones keep coming up. So there's a message there somewhere. It's just, do I choose to accept it? And apparently if I don't, it'll keep coming up for me. So,
The universe has its way of just keep pushing the button, waiting for you to respond. And it doesn't give up on you. Even when we give up on ourselves, the universe does not give up on us.
no. Well, I'm excited. This Saturday morning, I'm hosting a casual Cacao and Cards here in Murphy at the studio. Got some folks that happen to be in town from other places. They're coming, and we're gonna have a nice little crowd. And I just so happened to pick up a few new decks the other day. So I know I went down this Rebecca Campbell wormhole.
Oh, I love her cards.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I know you have the Starseed one, but similar to the Starseed deck, there's also a water deck, a rose deck. I can't even remember them. She has like 5 of them. I didn't get 5, but there are multiple. I mean, I got a lot, but there are multiple. Then I found a woodland creature one, which has an animal and a plant together. And that's a particular, that one was beautiful. So anyway, yeah. So I'm excited. Plenty of cacao and plenty of cards ready to go.
That'll be fun. I wish I could be there.
Yeah, I wish you all could too. I've been feeling lonely without my friends, but excited that one day I'll be able to get all these groups together.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, our retreat, June.
Yeah.
So good. It's so good. Filling up.
And like, especially for you there in that weather, but even though the weather's nice and I can spend a lot of time outdoors here, like outdoors in Florida is not the same as outdoors in the mountains, in the woods, and waterfalls. Like there's no waterfall around here. You gotta go up north to get to waterfalls.
And being somewhere where you can't hear a car is such a huge, how do I say, relief to your ears. Like one thing that I noticed when I moved up here is because there's so much less visual and auditory stimulation. So as I drive my kids to school, even though it's a 2-lane road, it's like mountains on each side, and then you can see mountains in the distance, and the sunrise is always majestic every fucking day. It's like a painting, like it's majestic. I keep taking pictures of it, and the pictures won't do it justice. I'm like, you have to be a poet and a painter to capture what's happening right now, because I can't even share it with you guys. But visually, I am so much more relaxed because there's not 87 billboards in my face. There's not 20 signs. There's not, people cutting me off and running around. Like, honestly, the scariest thing is when the deer run around. That's the part. But even that doesn't happen that often, right? So there, just physically being here and being in an area like this will relax you. It will make you feel better. So many of my friends that I talk to, everybody that I talk to lately has been just going through it one way or the other. And, you don't have to have like a big major problem in your life to deserve a retreat. A retreat is exactly that. It's a retreat from your day to day. It's space to think. Like, you want to hear your intuition, you got to be quiet. You can't be networking and driving and cursing in traffic and checking your calendar. Like, when people come to our retreats, yes, of course, you can have access to your phone. No one's telling you not to call your family, but we have, specific time frames where we're like, okay, we're only going to focus on this one thing. You want to feel delicious? Focus on one thing. I mean, and listen, I'm a multitasking ADHDer. Like, it's hard for me to focus on one thing. But when I do, I find my processes go so much faster, right? I get to the answers that I want faster. My confidence builds faster. My spirituality builds faster. I connect faster with that singular focus. So don't feel like you have to, like you can totally feel like you have it together, which is amazing. And you could use a little time in the woods, you know?
Everybody can use some time in the woods.
Yeah. And like I mentioned before, the retreat center we're going to, I think it's about 200 acres. If you want to, I keep repeating, everything we do is a practice of choice. And so when you come, if you decide that you want to go on a massive hike at 5 o'clock in the morning, the trails are open and available to you. Just, be safe. If you want to not do that and you just want to sit by the waterfall, you can do that, right? So you don't have to be super, super physically fit. Yes, there are some stairs out in the woods and there's, climbing up on things and stuff like that. But if I can do it, trust me, you can do it. um, yes. So anyway, so don't be afraid, and set the example for your family, for those of you with kids. If you want your kids to, quote unquote, have a better life, model it. Model the better life yourself, All right, that's my soapbox for today.
You stepping down?
I'm stepping down. I'm stepping down. I just have too many moms in my life, and community leader friends that are trying to show everybody else how to take care of themselves, but yet they're not doing it themselves. And that's important, so
very important. Cheers to that.
I'm loving your mug so much. I love it.
I know. But I also I had this, I feel like we need mug sponsors, like someone to give me your cool mug and I will drink my cacao out of it on the show, and I will promote your mugs.
Me, we'll work for mugs. Yeah, I've actually purchased, like, I don't have a chance to travel as much as I would like, but in the meantime, I get mugs from like England, and I'll get a scarf from Ireland, and I'm like, well, I can't get there, but I'm gonna buy from there, so then I feel better.
Yeah, and even, as a Sagittarius, like, we are all about world travel. And my astrologist, Mary Lamando, once said to me, she's like, if you're not going out to explore the world will come to you. And, like, if you look over the course of my career, how many international clients that, because literally, yes, the world, and I have been out there in the world, and my spirit craves more of the world. And but when I can't get out to the world does come to me. So that's
Beautiful, beautiful. Look at that intuition. All right. So to wrap up, we invite you guys to practice using your intuition. Ask yourself little questions, little decisions. Feel it in your gut. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, see how you feel, and then make that decision and move forward wholeheartedly. And let us know. Let us know how your success was. How is that feeling? And if you feel lost and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, that's okay too. Reach out to us and we'll talk to you about that too,
absolutely. All right.
Awesome.
Is that a wrap for today?
That's a wrap.
All right. Have a magical day, everyone.